Signature grade iron fence, traditional grade iron fence, 5 things to consider when choosing between them. Hey everyone, Jason from Iron Fence Shop. One of the items we often see folks struggling with is deciding between signature grade or traditional grade wrought iron fence. So today I wanted to go over 5 things to consider when you're interested in our Stronghold iron fence and aren't sure which grade to go with. If you haven't found our older videos going over the differences between the 2 grades, let's do a quick recap. There are 2 grades of iron fence that we offer. The first is our traditional grade, which you can consider the standard duty or residential version of the iron fence. The second is our signature grade, which you can consider the heavy duty commercial version of the iron fence. Behind me is a piece of our traditional grade and our signature grade. As you can see, the styling's the same, but the components are both thicker and larger on the signature grade over here. Now let's dive into 5 things to consider before you choose which one of these is right for you. The first thing you want to consider is where the iron fence is being installed. Is this going in a private backyard? Is it going in your front yard right up against a public sidewalk? Or is this a commercial setting like a business, dining patio, church playground, or public park? The best way to evaluate where your fence is being installed is by how much control you have over who's around the fence. If it's in your backyard where only your family and neighbor can access the fence, then you can probably use either grade. However, let's say the fence is still at your residence, but going right up against a public sidewalk in your front yard. Now you don't have any control over who's going to be by your fence, and you may want to consider the heavier duty signature grade. Now if you're putting the fence in a public or commercial business setting where the general public will be, such as a park or a dining patio, we highly recommend the stronger signature grade. While we have had folks use the lighter traditional grade in commercial settings, the heavier duty nature of the signature grade is going to be more bend and break resilient, which leads us into item number 2. The second thing you want to consider is the strength and weight of the 2 grades. As I mentioned before, the signature grade is the heavier duty version of the fence. Now both grades are very strong and fully welded pieces, but the signature grade is a step up in terms of strength and weight. It's going to take a lot more force to bend or break a signature grade fence panel than a traditional grade one. Now let's grab a couple of smaller pieces of the iron fence and go in for a closer look. Here I have a small piece of my iron fence in the traditional grade, and over here the signature grade. Closer up you can really see those larger signature grade components. We go from a 1/2 inch square 18 gauge wall on the traditional grade picket to the larger and thicker 3/4 inch 16 gauge wall picket on the signature grade here. The horizontal rails are both 1/8 inch thick and solid rolled. However, you go from a 1 inch wide rail on the traditional grade to a 1.5 inch wide rail on the signature grade. The solid cast iron finials, you really notice the difference. It's a 4 inch tall and 1 inch wide finial on the traditional grade versus the larger 6 inch tall and 2 inch wide finial on the signature grade. Not only is the signature grade finial tip much larger, but it has a thicker neck here, which is typically your failure point when pressure is applied. Lastly, if you're using one of our matching gates with a welded U-frame around the outside, that frame is 14 gauge wall thickness on both gate grades, but you go from a smaller 1.5 inch square frame on the traditional grade gates to a larger 2 inch frame on the signature grade gates. Now let's talk weight differences between the 2 grades. Along with those bigger signature grade components comes more weight as well. Here I put together a chart showing the difference in weights of some of our common pieces in both grades. All of those larger components add up to more strength and weight in the signature grade pieces. If we look at our 3 foot tall classic pieces here, you can see that a 3 foot tall by 8 foot wide classic panel weighs about 40 pounds in traditional grade and 75 pounds in signature grade. That's almost double the weight in the signature grade for that same 3 by 8 footprint. If we jump down to our biggest 6 foot tall classic panel, you can see we go from 70 pounds in the traditional grade to 120 pounds in the signature grade. The weight difference applies to your gates too. Our 4 foot tall by 4 foot wide traditional grade walk gate weighs in at 40 pounds, whereas its signature grade counterpart weighs in at 60 pounds. When you jump from traditional grade to signature grade iron, that extra metal adds up to more strength and weight in the pieces for maximum durability. The third thing you want to consider is the profile and desired look of the iron fence. Now this one gets a little more subjective or eye of the beholder, but nonetheless it's an important consideration when choosing the fence grade. You can see here how the signature grade has a larger size and profile compared to the smaller components of the traditional grade. The larger signature grade components are going to stand out more than its smaller traditional grade counterparts, both up close and from a distance. You want to consider what role the fence is going to play in your overall landscape design theme too. Are you looking for a beautiful accent fence that blends in with the overall design? Then the smaller profile traditional grade may work best. Is the fence going to be a main focal point of the landscape and you want it to be at the forefront of what you notice? Then the larger profile signature grade would be better. Consider what will be around the fence line too. If you're planting a line of shrubs along the fence line and don't want the fence to disappear into them from a distance, go with a larger profile signature grade that'll stand out more. Trying to preserve the view behind the fence, such as a lake or an open field, go with a smaller profile traditional grade that won't draw your attention as much from what's beyond the fence. The fourth thing you want to consider is mixing or matching the two grades when using one of our arched driveway gates. Now, the majority of the time you aren't going to mix and match the grades. However, if you're using one of our arched driveway gates, this does come into play. Since the driveway gates have more leverage force placed on them, have the weight bias out in the middle, and could be impacted by a vehicle, we only build the arched driveway gates in our heavy-duty signature grade. But what if you need fence around the arched driveway gate? Are you stuck only using matching signature grade? Not necessarily. It's really going to depend on the look you want and how much fence is going around the gate. Now, some folks like the arched driveway gate to have the larger signature grade profile and the fence line to have the smaller traditional grade profile so that the gate stands out more readily. As you can see behind me here, the difference is noticeable, but they're still styled the same and complementary to each other. Consider how much fence is going to be around the gate too. If you only have 20 or 30 feet of fence around the gate, then I'd probably go with all matching signature grade for continuity in a smaller area. However, if you have longer stretches of fence around the gate, such as 60 feet or more, then you could go with either grade. Again, this is one of those eye of the beholder things more than a right-wrong choice. The fifth and final thing you want to consider when choosing the iron fence grade is your project budget. Well, I saved the no fun one for last. I realize this has probably come off like a commercial for buying signature grade only. However, the traditional grade is also a beautiful and strong option too. Don't take away from this that the traditional grade is some lower quality version of the iron fence. It's just different levels of strength and different profiles. Kind of like buying a half-ton pickup or a one-ton pickup. Both good options, but one is rated to do a lot more work. Now, while it's easy to fall in love with that big profile signature grade, all that extra metal and profile comes at a price. You can expect a similar signature grade quote to cost anywhere from 40 to 50% more than its traditional grade counterpart. So that $3,000 traditional grade quote of materials is going to be closer to $4,500 in the heavier duty signature grade. So be sure to factor that cost difference in when choosing your grade as well. So there's 5 things to consider when choosing between our traditional grade and signature grade iron fences and gates. Be sure to check us out here at ironfenceshop.com. Want more info on the iron fence grade differences? Here's a link to another video we did on trying to help choose which one to go with. If you have any other questions, you can shoot us an email at sales@ironfenceshop.com or give us a call at 800-261-2729. We look forward to hearing from you.